My husband and I planned our honeymoon for months. The day after the wedding, he went without me. I thought the hardest part of marriage would be learning to share space. I was wrong. The hardest part was learning that love doesn't always mean loyalty. We planned our honeymoon for 9 months. 9 careful, hopeful months. Not just picking a destination, building a dream. We sat at the kitchen table with travel blogs open, arguing softly about beaches versus mountains. He wanted somewhere warm. I wanted somewhere quiet. We compromised on both. Italy. A small coastal town first. Then Florence. Then 3 nights in a vineyard outside Rome. We saved for it together. Or at least, I thought we did. Every extra shift I picked up went into that trip fund. Every bonus he received, he said, went there too. We counted the money like children counting treasure. He would joke about how we'd drink wine on a balcony and finally relax after months of wedding chaos. "It'll just be us," he said one night, resting his forehead against mine. "No family, no noise, just you and me, just you and me." I held on to those words. The wedding itself was beautiful. Overwhelming, but beautiful. White roses everywhere, music drifting across the garden. My mother crying softly in the second row. His friends laughing loudly near the bar. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Or maybe I only saw what I wanted to see. That night, after everyone left and the venue went quiet, we went back to our apartment. Suitcases already packed. Passports tucked neatly in the side pocket of my carry-on. Our flight was at 10:30 the next morning. We were exhausted, happy, drained in the way people are after something monumental ends. "Tomorrow," he whispered as he pulled me close, "we start our real life." I believed him. I woke up to silence. Not the soft morning quiet of someone still asleep beside you. An absence. The other side of the bed was cold. I assumed he was in the kitchen. Maybe making coffee. Maybe checking something online before we left. I stretched, smiling to myself, picturing us dragging suitcases through the airport like every newlywed couple I'd ever seen. Then I heard my phone vibrate. Not a call. A message. From him. I frowned. Why would he text me from the kitchen? I opened it. "Don't panic. I'll explain later." My stomach dropped. I sat up. Another message. I had to go ahead. "It's complicated. I promise this makes sense." "Go ahead." "Go where?" My hands were already shaking as I threw the blanket aside and walked into the living room. His suitcase was gone. My suitcase was still there. Zipped. Ready. Unmoved. I checked the bathroom. Empty. His toothbrush missing. My heart started beating louder in my ears. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I opened our shared airline app. The booking confirmation was still there. 2 tickets. Same flight. But when I refreshed the screen, something had changed. Only 1 boarding pass had been checked in. His. My name still showed, pending. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. He hadn't gone ahead. He had boarded. Without me. I stared at the time. 9:12 a.m. If he'd left at dawn, he'd be at the airport already. I called again. This time he answered. "Hey," he said, voice low. Like he was somewhere quiet. "Where are you?" I asked. A pause. "At the airport." "I can see that. Why are you at the airport without me?" Another pause. "It's complicated." Then uncomplicated. "I didn't want to wake you. And I didn't want you to argue." "Argue about what?" He exhaled sharply. "There's something I need to handle there. In Italy. Before we start everything." "What are you talking about? What could possibly be so urgent that you leave the morning after our wedding?" Silence. The kind that stretches too long. "Please trust me," he said finally. Trust. The word felt heavy. "Are you coming back?" I asked. He hesitated. "I don't know yet." Something inside me snapped quietly. Not dramatically. Just broke. "You don't know yet," I repeated slowly. "I'll call you when I land." The line went dead. I stood there in the middle of our apartment, still decorated with leftover wedding flowers, holding a phone that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else's life. The honeymoon we planned for 9 months. He was on the plane. Alone. And I had no idea why. I didn't cry. Not at first. Shock is a strange thing. It keeps you upright when you should be collapsing. It makes everything feel unreal, like you're watching someone else's life through a thin sheet of glass. I stood in the middle of the apartment for a long time after the call ended. The wedding flowers were still on the table. White roses already beginning to soften at the edges. My dress hung over a chair, slightly wrinkled from the night before. There were half-open envelopes stacked near the kitchen counter, wedding cards we hadn't even read yet. It looked like the beginning of something. It felt like the end. I walked back into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. My suitcase stood there, untouched. Passport inside, outfits planned carefully for each day in Italy. I had bought a pale blue dress for the vineyard. He had told me I'd look beautiful in it. My phone buzzed again. A message from his mother. Call me. That made the cold feeling in my chest deepen. Why was she involved? I called her. She answered immediately. You're awake, she said, her tone too steady. Where is your son? I asked. A pause. He told you, didn't he? Told me what? Silence again. The kind that says everything without words. He felt he needed to go, she said carefully. There are things you don't understand yet. Then explain them. It's not my place. I let out a hollow laugh. It wasn't his place to leave either, but he did that. She didn't argue. That scared me more. Is he coming back? I asked. He loves you, she said. That wasn't an answer. He loves you, she repeated. People who love you don't disappear the morning after their wedding. Another silence. Then she said something that made my knees feel weak. He found out something 2 weeks ago. My heart stopped. Found out what? I told him not to rush into marriage without clarity. Clarity about what? I demanded. But she had already pulled back. You need to speak to him. The call ended. I stared at the phone again. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks before the wedding. That meant he had stood at the altar knowing something. Something big enough to board a plane alone. I replayed the last 2 weeks in my mind. He had been quieter. I had blamed wedding stress. He had taken more phone calls in the other room. I had assumed work. He had held me the night before the wedding and whispered, no matter what happens, remember I tried. I had thought he meant nerves. I hadn't asked what he was afraid of. I checked our bank account. The honeymoon fund. It was lower than it should have been. Not empty, but lower. I opened the transaction history. A transfer. 5 days ago. A large one. Sent to an account I didn't recognize. My hands went cold again. I called him. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Hours passed. Friends texted photos from the wedding. Laughing emojis. You must be on your flight now. Send pictures when you land. I didn't reply. Around 6 p.m., my phone rang. It was him. I answered immediately. I landed, he said. Congratulations, I replied flatly. Do you want applause? He exhaled. He sounded tired. I know how this looks. How it looks. You left your wife the morning after your wedding. I didn't leave you. You're in another country. I had to come. For what? Silence again. Then finally. There's a woman here. The words didn't land at first. They hovered in the air. What? I said quietly. She contacted me 2 weeks ago. Who is she? She says she has a child. The world tilted. A child? I whispered. She says it's mine. The room felt too small. I gripped the kitchen counter to stay upright. You told me you had no past like that, I said. I didn't. I didn't know. And you believed her? I don't know what I believe. So you flew to Italy to find out if you're someone else's husband and father? She lives here. It was easier to meet face to face. Face to face. While I sat alone in our apartment with wilting wedding flowers. You should have told me, I said. I was afraid you'd call off the wedding. The honesty of that cut deeper than any lie. You should have given me the choice. I didn't want to lose you. You may have anyway. Silence stretched between us. I just need to see the child, he said. If it's not true, I'll come home. If it is. He didn't finish. If it is, I repeated slowly, then what? I don't know. I laughed then. Not because it was funny. Because it was unbearable. You don't know, I said again. You don't know if you're staying married. You don't know if you're a father. You don't know if you're coming home. I know I love you. Love isn't the problem, I said quietly. Honesty is. He didn't argue. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. The line went dead again. I stood alone in the apartment we had chosen together. The apartment that was supposed to be our first home. Now it felt like a waiting room. The honeymoon we planned for 9 months had turned into something else entirely. A test. And I didn't know if our marriage would survive it. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. When the world shifts beneath you, your body doesn't know how to rest. Every sound feels louder. Every silence feels suspicious. I kept replaying everything. The way he hesitated during vows. The way he held my hands a little too tightly. The way he whispered, no matter what happens. He had known, or at least suspected, and he chose to marry me anyway. That hurt more than the possibility of another child. The next afternoon, he called again. His voice sounded different, quieter. I met them, he said. Them. My heart braced. And? The child is 4. 4. That meant this wasn't a recent mistake. It was from before we met. Before us. She showed me photos, he continued. Dates. Messages I barely remember. It was a short relationship. Years ago. I was careless. Careless. A simple word for something that could fracture an entire life. Is the child yours? I asked. There was a long pause. Yes. The word didn't explode. It just settled. Heavy. So what now? I asked. I don't know. Again. That word. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. You flew across the world, I said slowly, to confirm you have a child. And you still don't know? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a father overnight. I don't know how to explain this to you without losing you. You should have trusted me enough to try. I was afraid. I was your wife, I said quietly. You made me your wife knowing this could surface. Silence again. Then his voice softened. I didn't want to start our marriage with doubt. You started it with absence. That hung between us. He didn't defend himself. Instead, he said something unexpected. She didn't ask for money. I blinked. What? She didn't ask for anything. She just said he deserves to know his father. I felt something twist inside me. A child, 4 years old, somewhere in Italy, unaware of the chaos his existence had created. Does he look like you? I asked before I could stop myself. Yes. There was no anger in that answer. Just truth. I sank into a chair. For the first time since he left, the shock shifted into something else. Clarity. This isn't about a honeymoon, I said softly. It's about the kind of man you are. I'm trying to be the right one. You should have started that yesterday. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I can book you a flight. You can come here. We can face this together. Together. The word felt fragile now. I looked around the apartment. The flowers had wilted completely. The wedding cards were still unopened. My suitcase still packed for a trip that no longer existed. I won't chase you into a crisis you created alone, I said calmly. That's not what I'm asking. It is. He inhaled sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to decide who you are without me standing next to you. You're giving up? No, I said. I'm choosing myself. There was silence on the other end. Not anger. Not shouting. Just realization. I love you, he said. I know, I replied. But love doesn't erase consequences. Another pause. If I come back, he said slowly, and we work through this, will you still be here? I thought about it. About trust. About respect. About the fact that he boarded that plane without giving me the truth. I don't know, I said honestly. It was the first time I used his word. And I finally understood how it felt on the receiving end. We ended the call without resolution. Days passed. He stayed in Italy longer than he planned. Meeting the child again. Meeting the mother again. Trying to understand what responsibility meant now. I didn't call. I didn't beg. I didn't cry this time. Instead, I started unpacking. Not just my suitcase. My expectations. My illusions. The version of marriage I thought I had. 1 week later, he returned. He stood in the doorway of our apartment looking older than he had 10 days earlier. Different. We didn't rush into each other's arms. We just stood there. I'm going to support him, he said first. Financially. And I'll visit. But I'm not moving there. I nodded. And us? He asked. I held his gaze. This requires honesty, I said. Not panic. Not fear. Not silence. I know. You broke something the morning you left. I know. I don't know if it can be repaired. He didn't argue. Instead, he stepped inside quietly. I'm willing to try, he said. And for the first time since the wedding, I believed him. Not because he promised something beautiful, but because he stopped hiding. We canceled the honeymoon. The vineyard reservation expired. The balcony view never happened. But something else did. We started over, not as naive newlyweds, but as two flawed adults facing a complicated truth. Trust rebuilt slowly, painfully, with conversations that lasted until dawn. With therapy sessions neither of us imagined needing. With boundaries that didn't exist before. I met the child months later. Not as a rival, not as a threat, but as proof that life doesn't wait for perfect timing. The day after our wedding, he went without me. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. It was the moment I stopped being a girl dreaming of romance and started being a woman demanding truth. Love survived, but only because honesty finally arrived. And if I've learned anything, it's this. A honeymoon can be postponed. Respect cannot.